Welcome, I'm Erica Onofrio, and I help people live more peaceful, more fulfilling, and more authentic lives. I'm so happy to have you here. So today, I am talking about the emotion of shame. And this is the absolute lowest emotion on the vibrational alignment chart. So if you haven't seen one of those, just Google it at some point, vibrational alignment chart, and you can see how each vibration has a different spot on that chart. And shame is actually the lowest, okay? So the number is 20, but anyway, it's the lowest energy, so it's the heaviest energy. It's so dense, and it creates lots of suffering. And it creates suffering every day for people, even people who live, relatively happy lives. It just holds people down. And so I want to talk about it, where it comes from, why it shows up, and how you can actually use it to your advantage to learn more about yourself on a deeper level. Also, how you can move through it and get past it and get to the other side of it and allow yourself to raise your vibration, because that's what a lot of people are wanting to do, and rightfully so, because it just feels so much better when you're living life from a higher vibration rather than a lower vibration. So I'm not going to go into that in this video. Maybe I'll make another video on that at another time, but let's talk about shame. So what does it feel like? You know what this feeling feels like because you've definitely felt it before in your life. And so it feels like we just get hit by a bus, and it's just like all of your energy is drained, all your batteries are drained out, and you just don't feel like you can go on and do anything. So these are the days where you can't get out of bed. These are the days where you don't want to get up off the couch. You're binge watching Netflix and you can't even imagine doing anything else at all. These are the days where you're supposed to show up for work and you call out because it's just too much. You can't see yourself doing it, right? You can't even lift your body up to do anything. Oftentimes that emotion that's holding you down is shame. Now, I just want to say that it's also possible that it could be one of the other emotions, right? We also have guilt, we have anger, we have fear, apathy. There's a whole bunch of other ones that could also be, but a lot of the times the heaviest one is shame. And that's what this video is on. Now, you can also use a lot of the things that I talk about in this video to go through any of the other emotions that you have, like anger or fear or apathy or guilt. However, this one is going to be particularly for shame. So shame is that feeling that you have that like you've done something wrong, or there's something wrong with you. And it can be like you can actually do something wrong and you can know that you did something wrong and then you feel shame about that. Or you can do something wrong and not know it was wrong, right? So we learn through our experience of life. So sometimes we do something, and by doing that something and seeing what the reaction or the result was, we learn that that's actually not how we should be doing things. I still do this all of the time. I learn from how I act and interact with other people and the world. Everything is a teacher to me. So I know as soon as I feel an emotion, like one of the uncomfortable or heavy emotions, I know I need to check myself and figure out, what have I done? What have I triggered within me that is creating this feeling to come up? Okay, so it can be something that you have actually done knowingly. It can be something you've done unknowingly. Shame can also come from something that other people who you feel connected to have done. So for example, something that your parents, siblings, co-worker that you might be real close to, your spouse or partner, your children, sibling, whatever. I think I said that already, but basically like people who you're close to and who you may in some way, shape, or form match some of your identity to, or link some of your identity to, which you shouldn't do, by the way, but I'm not going to go into that one right now. But if they do something, that can also cause you to feel shame. So there's another way. You can also feel shame from society, can give you shame. Also different institutions, for example, certain religions push shame There's just certain things that can happen that sort of that energy is existing in that system, in that institution, in that environment, in that culture. So shame can come from like a whole bunch of different places and affect you. And it can also come from your very own self, in the sense that you can have subconscious or even conscious beliefs that are actually not true. They're not aligned with your truth. And those can actually cause you shame as well. So it would be like if you have this false subconscious belief and then you're living from that space or doing something from that space, and that can cause you to feel shame. So tons of different ways that you can feel shame. The bottom line though is that when you're feeling it, we want to talk about how you can use it to your advantage. So instead of allowing the shame to overcome you and ruin your day or your week or your month or gosh, even your year, depending on, how hard you are on yourself, allowing you to learn from that experience, grow from that experience, and move forward from that experience. So let me just check my notes, see if there's something else I need to talk about. Okay, no, so we can go right into what we're gonna do to feel the shame. So number one thing is you have to admit that you're even feeling it. So I'm going to give you an example from my personal life. I had been somehow scrolling through something on Facebook and I came across a memory from like 9 years ago and I instantly felt shame. Okay, so that's a trigger. I'm instantly triggered. That emotion came to the surface. So a lot of times what people will do is push it away, or just sort of like, pretend that didn't just happen, or ignore it, or go find a way to avoid it, whether that's like food, shopping, sex, alcohol, drugs, whatever different ways that people avoid their emotions. All the different ways you could avoid your emotions, right? Or you can pause and feel it. So when that happened, I paused and I was like, whoa, I'm feeling a ton of shame right now over this thing from like 9 years ago I didn't even remember. So that's number one, is identifying the emotion that you're feeling and accepting that that is what you are actually feeling. So what is important is identifying an emotion very clearly, because the closer that you can get to the actual emotion that it is you're feeling, the better chance that you have of actually relieving yourself of it. So for example, when I was scrolling through, like, I know what the emotions feel like because this is what I do for a living. I feel other people's emotions for a living, and I read energy for a living. So I know what all of the different ones feel like, but let's just say that for some reason I misidentified it and I thought it was something else. Trying to heal the wrong emotion isn't going to really help. I mean, I could maybe get some help. It would help me in some way, but it's not going to help this particular issue. So you want to make sure that you're properly identifying the issue. So just to be clear, shame is the one where you feel like there's something wrong with you, like deeply internally wrong with you, or you have done something wrong and you feel that heaviness, like that weight of having done something wrong. Or like I said, having something done to you as well, right? Like somebody that you've connected with and energetically are linked with. So anyway, we want to label that emotion. So we've labeled it. Then the next thing to do is actually feel it. So for me, that meant putting my phone down, and it meant closing my eyes. And I highly recommend this being the way that you feel all of your emotions. Shut off the stuff that's going on in the external world. So if it's your TV, your computer, your phone, music is playing, your kids are yelling, your spouse is bitching, whatever it is. I don't know if you're allowed to curse on YouTube, sorry. But basically, you have all of these things that are always going on. Pull away from all of that. Find a little space for you to be with your own self. It's safe for you to do this. This is you with you. It's totally safe for you to be with you, and totally safe for you to feel your feelings. And then just close your eyes and really feel it. So here's the thing. Emotions have a 90-second lifespan. That is it. 90 seconds. The problem is that we suppress our emotions so frequently as a society that instead of it being 90 seconds, now we have accumulated all of these 90 seconds inside of us for years. And so it doesn't take 90 seconds to get it out. It takes a little bit longer than that. So fresh emotions, those ones are going to be 90 seconds to sit with. And sometimes, honestly, I feel like they're even shorter than that. Some of the piled up old heavy emotions might take you a little bit longer, but they're not going to take you all day, okay? It's just going to take a little bit of time to really feel it and get it out of your system and to release it. And if you set that intention too, I'm feeling this right now so that I can release this from my body, that's going to help you release it. Everything is energy all of the time, and you are the master of your little universe, okay? That your body is your little universe, and you are the master of that. And so you get to choose how that energy works, and energy has to listen to you. And so if you set that intention that I'm releasing this now, I'm going to feel this and release this now, that is what will happen. So you take the time to just feel it, and that feels uncomfortable. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. It doesn't feel good. But think about this, okay? Feeling the shame, this is what we're talking about today with the shame, about feeling the shame or the guilt or the anger or the apathy or the fear for just a few moments is so much better than feeling the shame for days, weeks, months, and years, or even your entire lifetime. Because this will affect your body in the long run. I've seen it happen. I know exactly what shame looks like in an old man. It's really interesting. And so the more that you can allow the emotional energy within you to be released, the better you're going to feel, the more energy you're going to have, the better experience of life that you're going to have. And your body is not going to accumulate and cause disease or other physical ailments and issues because those emotions get stuck in there and mess with the energy systems within your body. Okay. Anyway, so back to this feeling it. Now, as I'm sure you already know, it's really easy to feel the good emotions. We like feeling happy. We love feeling love. We love feeling peace, right? Joy, all those emotions that feel so good. We like feeling them, and we'll happily feel them. You also have to give yourself time to feel the heavy emotions too. And what's really interesting is that feeling those heavy emotions and allowing yourself to truly go to that space and release it opens up the door for you to feel the other emotions so much more and to such an increased level. It's a really beautiful thing. So think about the deeper you allow yourself to go and feel your emotions on the heavier side, the higher you allow yourself to go, right? Vibrationally, and feel those beautiful emotions on the other side. So it is a trade-off, right? There is a universal law about this. I can't remember what it's called right now, but anyway, the idea is that you've got to go low to go high type of thing, okay? And also, hey, remember, like, what goes up is always going to come down. You can't hang out in straight up bliss 24/7. All of your emotions are valid and important and necessary and helpful for you to live a full and rich life with all of your experiences. Okay, so really, really feeling it, which is literally just pausing and being in it. So I'm going to tell you that shame often feels like it's something heavy on your shoulders. It can be also in your head, it can be on your chest, and it can be like this weight that feels like it's pushing you down. So while you're feeling it, what you're going to do is sort of like lean into that feeling and that sensation and allow it to quote unquote rise and then fall. So the rise is the hardest part. That's where people get tripped up. Because as the emotion starts to rise while they're leaning into it, they start to get afraid. Oh my gosh, what if I get stuck in here? Oh, what if I feel like this forever? You're not going to get stuck in there. I've done this with hundreds of people. I do this every single day, right? There's science behind this. Emotions have to be released If they're suppressed, studies have actually shown what happens is that they grow larger. So by ignoring it or suppressing it or denying it, avoiding it, all those things, then they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's not what we want. So leaning into it, allowing yourself that little bit of space in there to feel that heaviness. It feels really crappy. I feel you. I know. I do it. You know, it doesn't feel good. If you need to cry, let yourself cry. Let yourself do whatever it is to release that emotion. It's going to rise all the way up. It's going to peak. You're going to feel like I can't take another second of this. And then it's going to fall. And that's what emotions do. And it's a really interesting thing with your energy when you see it happen and when you feel it happen. Now, you might not feel it happen on this deep, deep level that I'm discussing right now, where you actually feel this energy rise and fall. But what you will feel is a peak and then a release. And so as soon as it releases, oftentimes what's right behind it is this beautiful energy of love. Usually there's love right behind it, because it's your heart is expanding because you have allowed yourself, you've given yourself that space and that self-love to feel a feeling and alleviate an emotion that you may have been carrying around for a long time. So, and also a lot of times it's just this, what's behind it, right? Behind everything is really just love. So, okay. Now you've acknowledged that this is the emotion and you've allowed yourself to really fully feel the emotion. You could stop there if you wanted to and call it a day, but I would suggest that you keep going with it. And the reason for that is because that's going to really help you get to know yourself on a deeper level. And it's also going to help you for your future in creating the reality you want to create and want to be living. So, if you're going to keep going with the process, number 3 is tuning in to the messages from that space. So from the emotion, from the shame, what is it teaching you about you? So oftentimes that heavy energy of shame is teaching you that there's something that's very important to you. Now you might think duh, I know this, but do you really? Because if you really didn't know it, then you wouldn't have had that emotional trigger come up and it wouldn't need to be teaching you this. So sometimes we think that we know ourselves or we know certain things a little bit better than we actually do. So tune into what it's teaching you. So if your shame is really heavy, for example, the one that I was talking about was such this heavy feeling. And when I tuned into it, I'm why was I doing this? Obviously I was doing this behavior that I didn't know I was doing at the time, but why was I doing it? And for me, it was because I wanted to belong. And I was oh my goodness. And once I realized that, it made it very clear for me for why I even acted the way that I did. And I was okay, so there was this desire. Desire was what created me to do these behaviors, and that desire was to be to belong to something, to feel like I was part of something. So that's why I did what I did. Okay, and so then the shame only came up to show me what my desire was. I hope that makes sense. Okay, I know this is starting to go a little deep, but you can do this with every single emotion that you have. But then what we do is we take that another step deeper. So that's showing me that my desire was to belong to something, to be a part of something. And so what does that tell me? Then that tells me that connection is important to me. Intimacy is important to me. A group feeling, belonging to people is important to me, right? So then I started to look for examples in my life of where I do belong. And then I thought about how can I nurture that more? How can I nurture those spaces that I already belong to even more to get that feeling more? And then the other one, of course, is you always turn it on to you of how can I make myself feel like I belong to me? So, like I said, I know this is going much, much deeper. However, thinking about this triggers that comes up, shame is the emotion. Shame helps teach me about me and what I can learn through that whole process. And so you can do this with every single emotion. Now, I feel you on the whole, like, this is going to take way too much time. You don't have to do this like for every single emotion, but you want to do it when it's like big stuff that comes up, especially when it's heavy stuff. Because, for example, if I ignored that feeling and pushed it aside, it's going to just keep popping up again and again and again in my life. Or even if I ignored that whole like desire to belong thing, right? That would keep popping up again and again in my life. But instead, now I can take a proactive approach. The relationships that I already belong to, I can dive into them a little bit deeper and give more of myself. The relationship that I have with my own self, I can give more of myself to that. So you see how it allows your life to become more fulfilling and more enriched just by learning this extra piece about yourself. Otherwise, it's going to continue to show up for you in different ways. And if you don't release that heavy shame, it's going to continue to weigh you down. Now, moving forward. So I want to also note that as you do this process, you will get much faster at it. Okay, so for me, it's a lot faster now. It's like, oh, I feel so happy. Why do I feel happy? Oh, this happened. I've been trying to make this happen. It finally came into manifestation. Oh, that feels really good. Go about my day. You know, it doesn't have to be very long and drawn out, but when it's heavy stuff, you do want to dig in and figure out what it is teaching you. Okay, so moving forward into the next phase, which is number 4, and that is forgiveness. So why is forgiveness included in this? It's included because forgiveness is one of the most like underrated things that we can do to have better and more fulfilling and more peaceful lives. When we forgive other people and when we forgive ourselves, it clears away this energy that usually sits in there of resentment, which is a form of anger, and it's a heavy, dense energy. I want to say anger might be like 125, 150, something like that, right? But it's like still low on that vibrational chart. And so in order for you to have a really fulfilling life, you don't want to be carrying around anger and resentment with you. Certainly, it's absolutely normal to feel anger, and when you do feel it, you can learn from it and use that same process I just taught you. However, you don't need to carry it around all day, every day, and take it out to lunch and have it sleep over and all that kind of stuff, right? You just need to learn your lessons from it, feel it, learn your lessons from it, and keep it moving. So, forgiveness allows you to release the energy on an even deeper level. So if it was something that you did, whether you knew that you were doing something wrong or you didn't know that you were doing something wrong, either one, grant yourself forgiveness. It's a beautiful gift that you can give to yourself. Grant yourself that forgiveness and just let yourself off the hook. But don't do it again, okay? So it doesn't really count if you like, I'll just forgive myself. It's cool if I, screw this person over. Like, no, don't do that. But just grant yourself forgiveness for the things that you have done. And, when you didn't know any better, or even when you knew better and you still made the wrong choice, because there's some part of you that didn't know or you still wouldn't have done it, correct? So, granting yourself that forgiveness or granting other people forgiveness. So, for example, if your shame is linked somehow to an institution or society or whatever, a group, whatever, there's millions of things that could be linked to. If it's linked to one of those things, granting forgiveness to that thing. Most people, not all, okay, I do have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, so I'm fully aware that not all will fit into this statement, but most people are genuinely good people who are not trying to hurt other people. And even the people who are hurting other people usually are hurting other people because they are also hurting and they don't know what else to do or how else to interact. And you can say till you're blue in the face, well, they're an adult and they're this and they should know better and blah, blah, blah. And you can say all that stuff that you want to say. But at the end of the day, the reality is if they aren't acting differently, it's because they probably don't know. Like they truly, or it's not even possible for them because of how much pain that they are in, that they just can't get past that. There's a very small percentage of humans who are actually just really not great humans. And we can even go into that much deeper, which we're not going to do right now. But statistically, right, most people are not like evil and trying to hurt people. It's just happening because they're hurting themselves. So, also, I want to keep in mind forgiveness isn't really for the other person. It does affect the other person. It's beneficial to them in the sense that you have removed that energy from like between the two of you, and so that sets them free. But more important, it sets you free. It allows you to be released of that heavy energy, and it cleans your side of the street. So even if they never clean their side of the street, it doesn't matter, you cleaned your side of the street, and so your side of the street is nice and shiny, and that energy is gone. Forgiveness is like a huge thing if you want to relieve heavy energies and stuff like that. And I actually have a forgiveness meditation, a guided one that you can try, and there's a link below this for you to give that a try if you want to go like deeper on forgiveness. But let's move back to where we are with shame. I'm getting way off topic now. So anyway, you want to forgive yourself and or others for whatever it was that happened, okay? That just alleviates all of the stress right there and alleviates that energy. All right, number 5 is gratitude. Yes, gratitude for what happened. Gratitude for the experience or the person or the event or whatever it was. Gratitude for it, because that allows you to learn more about yourself, and thus in turn allows you to have a deeper experience of life. So if you're like brand new to all of this stuff and you have never before sat with your feelings, you have never like, what's the message from my feelings? You've not forgiven anyone for anything, and you don't have gratitude for a lot of stuff, you're probably gonna be like, what are you talking about right now? And I get that, but bear with me here. I've been doing this for a really long time, and so I can tell you that initially it can be like, is that possible? Can that really work? There's all that self-doubt, that inner critic starts going and telling you that like, this is BS, just shut off this video. And it's not, okay? I wouldn't be sitting here on a Sunday evening making a video about all this kind of stuff if I didn't genuinely care about human beings in the world that I've never even met, and be telling you to do this kind of stuff because it's going to make you feel better and have a better life. All right, so gratitude. For those people who have done a lot of this stuff already, a lot of this self-work, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Finding gratitude for all of the things that you've ever been through, and emotions that you have, and just the experiences of life that you have, whether they're good or bad, brings you to this deeper, richer experience of life where everything that happens is something to be grateful for. And every single experience is beautiful and profound, even the uncomfortable ones, even the ones that make you feel heavy and make you feel the shame. So finding gratitude in it, you can find it in there somewhere. So to use my example again, I found so much gratitude in the whole experience, by the way that I ended up finding, that thing on Facebook that triggered me, and by the way that that trigger allowed me to dive deeper into myself and to form a deeper connection with my own self. And by the way that then allowed me to see, where did I already belong that I wasn't giving enough of my energies to that space? And then by allowing me to make the shifts in my life that I wanted to make so that I deepen that connection, because apparently it's much more important to me than my conscious mind ever realized. Gratitude, because now that deepens my entire experience of life from that moment forward. into something much more rich and much more fulfilling than it could have been if I didn't have that experience. So finding gratitude in everything that happens and all of your experiences with everyone is a really magical and amazing thing to help you live a more peaceful life and more fulfilling life, and definitely more authentic life too, because it brings you back closer to your heart. All right, number 6, love yourself. I mean, really, I could have just like skipped everything that I just talked about, and I could have just said love yourself and then shut off the camera, because that's really all anyone ever needs to do, ever. The more that you love yourself, the better experience of life that you're going to give to yourself, the better you're going to show up for your life, yourself, for other people, just everything, right? So loving yourself no matter what. This isn't just loving yourself when you're a good person and when you do something nice for people, or when you achieve something, or when you show up in a certain way. This is loving yourself every single day of your life, even when it's uncomfortable, when you don't want to, when it's really hard to, when you're seeing your truth on a deeper level, and when you're feeling shame about something that you have done, loving yourself anyway. Because love is much higher vibration. Also, you deserve love just because you're a human being existing in the world. And you deserve your love, okay? That's really important too. And that will bring you back up, okay? So instead of getting stuck in that heavy emotion and then dwelling on it and living in that space, feel it, let it go, see what it's teaching you, give forgiveness, have gratitude, love yourself. These are the recipes for living a more peaceful and more fulfilling and more authentic life, and you can do it. It sounds hard in the beginning, it's a little funky, but once you learn the way, it's really not that hard, and it's really beautiful and enjoyable and magical too. So thank you so much for listening. I also have I love to write, so there's a blog post that explains all this kind of stuff too, and there is a yin yoga class for releasing shame that you can also try, which helps you get into your body, dig out all of that stuff from inside your body, because energy does get stored inside your physical body, and then it gets really tight and constricted, and that's why you have physical pain. That's also why it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. So there is a yin yoga class that you can do for this one, or I also have a million other, not a million, that's kind of exaggerating, like big time. I have a few other yin yoga classes that you can also try to release some energy and feel nice and good inside. And what else do I have to say? Oh, I have a beautiful program, 4 weeks to freedom, and 4 weeks to freedom. And it takes you on a journey through your whole entire chakra system, helping you to clean out all of that old energy, figure out who you are, what you really want to be doing in life, unstuck you, and have you move forward with ease to create the reality that you truly want to be living. And so there's more information about that down below. And until next time, thank you so much. I hope that you have a wonderful experience of life. I hope you allow yourself the space and love to feel your feelings and go within and learn and grow from that space. Thank you so much.